special meeting of the Carefree Town Council, a workshop for the budget will come to order. Please take a silent roll call so everyone is here. And agenda item number 1, budget work section, FY26 revenue projections and planned expenditures. Mr. Neese.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good afternoon. At a high level, these are the topics of today's discussion. Once again, as we did last week, the workshops are designed to be more conversational between staff and the council. However, we won't use staff plural. The conversation is mainly between you and I today. Staff is also available to address any further questions that you might have. Members of the public in attendance may also participate by completing a speaker form, filling it out, giving it to the town clerk, and then the mayor will call upon the speakers at the end of the discussion. This allows for those in the audience to hear the overall conversation and then address any questions at the end. As outlined at our last, which was our first budget workshop on April 15th, the foundation for the budget originates with our strategic plan. That strategic plan was unanimously approved by council this past winter. There are 3 phases within the six-month timeline of the budget, beginning with evaluation, which takes place January through March. We're looking at the data and forecasting. We also receive numbers from the state. In April, which we are in now, we start sharing that information with the public and start molding the respective budget. And then in May and June, we go through the approval process, which leads us to the bullseye there, which is our first of the fiscal year on July 1st. So let's begin the discussion this afternoon with a focus around the town revenues. The annual town revenues primarily comes from 3 sources. Our municipal sales tax, the sweet spot is anywhere between 55 and 65% annually. State shared revenue, also known as intergovernmental revenue, typically between 20 and 25%. And cost share revenue anywhere between 15 and 20% of our overall anticipated revenue for a given fiscal year. Now, I must note that this does not include any speculative grants or any earned interest off of our respective investment portfolio. So this is essentially the revenue that annually comes in, excluding those 2 parts. For this next fiscal year, we're forecasting approximately $8.5 million coming in with those 3 sources. We're in that sweet spot with municipal sales tax at 63% or $5.32 million. State shared revenue forecasted by the state, we're looking at about $1.75 million, and our cost recovery model about $1.4 million. And we'll touch upon the cost recovery model when we talk about expenses too. So let's dive in and look at each one of these categories. And we'll begin with the largest revenue stream, our sales tax revenue. And as we all know, sales tax is not a linear progression. It tracks with economic cycles. In 2006, the town sales tax increased from 2% to 3%. And this was with the initiation with a master contract that began in 2007, so we got a little head start to initiate that contract with Rural Metro. Prior to that date, everybody in Carefree had to subscribe to Rural Metro. So anywhere between $800 to $1,200 out of pocket the residents paid. They do not have to pay that today because we have a master contract with Rural Metro. So we essentially put money in people's pockets. As illustrated in this chart, over this period of time, that sales tax has varied between a low of $2.7 million in the Great Recession era to more recently over $6 million in 2024. During that 19-year average, that timeline there, we looked at an overall sales tax collection of $3.8 million. That's $1.25 million per each 1%. However, over the last 5 years, that average is significantly up, about $5.32 million, or 1.7%, or excuse me, 1.7 million per each 1%. We use this 5-year average to anticipate local sales tax revenue for the upcoming fiscal year. We don't play off of the peak, which is our past fiscal year. We use a 5-year average, and that allows us to insulate us from the volatility of sales tax. So the potential risk is the closure of top producers. In the past, we saw the closure of CVS. This upcoming fiscal year, we'll see Ace leaving the community and going down to Scottsdale. Also insulates us from economic cycles. Obviously, what's happening at the federal level will eventually trickle down and impact our local economy. What the impacts are unknown, but having a conservative forecast here using a 5-year average insulates ourselves. That insulation, that buffer, is over $1 million. Once again, 2024, we collected 6.4. Our forecast looks at 5.3. Legislative initiatives. In the past, it was construction sales tax. This past fiscal year, it was rental tax. There was discussion about grocery tax. We don't know what the future beholds, but we know that the legislature will do their thing and look at whittling away local sales tax. So using this 5-year average helps us to prepare for the unknown. So we are very conservative. Now let's take a look at our sales tax performance. So this stacked chart actually is the categories that are reported through the Arizona Department of Revenue for the past 10 years. The chart graphically depicts the diversification efforts of the town to broaden its sales tax base and insulate from volatility resulting from economic cycles, legislative impacts, and consumer preference influences. So more specifically, from a comparative perspective, if we drill down into the two ends of this stacked chart and compare these two respective periods of time, so in 2015 to 2024, in 2015 we collected $3.32 million. In 2024, we collected $6.42 million. Along those pie charts, you can see the respective percentages. And let me just note a couple points here. The amount collected proportionally through retail dropped by 5%, while online shopping increased proportionally by 3%. So you can see a transition to online shopping, people getting more comfortable within the town of Carefree to online shopping. We also see economic cycling. So with the loss of CVS, these private decisions that are made that we do not control, the decision of Ace relocating will impact our bottom line in the future. We don't control. So there's economic cycling with these private businesses. Additionally, proportionally, there was a decrease of 6% in construction sales tax comparing these two timelines. It's interestingly enough, the construction sales tax was recalibrated by the state legislature at that time, and that had a detrimental impact on the collection of construction sales tax. Now, we get peaks and valleys with construction sales tax based upon economic conditions and investment within our housing stock within Carefree. At last meeting, I guessed how much we are relative to build out. I said 80%. Looking at the documentation within our general plan, we're actually at 68%. So still room to build out, but we will have a transition within this community from build out to then reconstruction, remodeling of homes. And some of those homes in which we have more significant remodels, we will collect sales tax off of. Some of them that are done incrementally over time, that sales tax will be paid in the communities where that raw material is purchased. And that was one of the subtle changes in the construction sales tax, that we will not benefit from that respective construction sales tax. So some dip in construction sales tax. On the flip side, the largest growth occurred within accommodations, with a proportional increase of 9%. This growth in accommodations also corresponds with a growth in restaurants and bars. I took this picture a couple weeks ago, and this is a picture of the Savannah bikes. We all see them around town. They're riding from Savannah and come into our town center, ride through some of our neighborhoods. But on a frequent basis, we see these bikes riding into the town center. stopping at our shops, stopping at our restaurants, and having a meal. This is the benefit of accommodations. How many times do we go on vacation and do the same thing? We see people leaving the Hampton, walking across the street, looking at the sundial, then stopping at our restaurants. You've heard from some of our businesses about the benefits of the Hampton Inn within the community and how it has brought them business. So these are the things that we're working on to diversify and insulate ourselves from the risk, and why hospitality is so critical. And that's why a lot of communities around us are also hanging their hat on hospitality. We live in a tourism-driven economy where there's a lot of people coming up here to visit and enjoy the desert around us. Our lakes go into Cave Creek. And so having the beds here, having the businesses here that support that niche within the economy is critical to our diversification efforts. So that's, in a nutshell, a little bit about our municipal sales tax and our forecast for sales tax for this fiscal year. Any questions as it relates to sales tax?
Just reminder that the accommodation has the 3% sales tax as well as a 3% bed tax.
Correct. From a taxation perspective, it's the highest rate that you have out there. And that's also why a lot of communities are looking towards accommodations, is because it generates the most revenue from a sales tax perspective.
Yeah, I would just say, was a comment, back to that last slide. So we look at accommodations going up. If you look at bars and restaurants from FY 22 to 24, that increased, right? That yellow band grew more and more without adding any new restaurants. Things have been pretty stable here for the last, since the middle of COVID. And so we have virtually the same population. So my guess is a lot of that increase is attributable to guests at our hotels.
Absolutely, yes.
Just a quick question. So this big increase for over the last 5 years, now there's probably not a way to know. Is it actual more shoppers, more purchases, or is it really just the cost of things have gone up?
It's probably a little bit of both. Certainly the cost of things go up, and then the percentage that we get goes up.
Correct.
Certainly the economy has taken off during that period of time. So you look at the gross national product, very high over the last number of years. So that impacts it as well too. So they both contribute to the increase in sales tax.
All right, so as long as you're doing your 5-year average, you're going to be able to offset.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
But that's a really good comment, because over the last 5 years, maybe cumulative inflation is, 10, 15%. So this sales tax just rides that curve.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yep. All right. Good questions. All right. Moving on, and the next two categories are pretty straightforward. Kristen brought to you a adjustment in our cost recovery fees. We're anticipating about $1.4 million in cost recovery fees. These are fees assessed for services that the town staff provides on a daily basis. A lion's share of our workload is associated with processing permits and licenses and typical regulatory items. There are fees associated with each one of those tasks. And so the lion's share of this, almost 40% of it, comes from our permit. We have utility fees that we charge the various utilities to enter into our right-of-way, and we have inspection services for that. We have our court service fee that we charge the town of Cave Creek, and then the respective court fines, once again, to offset it. So a total of about $1.4 million coming into the town to offset the provision of services. Any questions about the service fees? Once again, we're going through a process to adjust those. They will be presented at a public hearing at our next regular council meeting in May. And then they become effective 30 days thereafter. So they will be effective with the adoption of the new budget. Any questions with the cost recovery fees?
I have one question. On the court fines and service fee, if you looked at a P&L, is that a win for us?
Yes, certainly we're not making a profit off of anything. It covers the costs. The benefit to both communities is we share in the labor costs
Right.
of the court. So it's an offset to the overall labor costs of the court.
Okay.
And a question on the rental income. It just doesn't move?
Rental income is essentially the fee that the water company pays us for the use of that facility. We haven't increased that. Obviously, our vision is to keep rates low, and obviously, we want to make money off that building. That impacts rates. So we're not into it for a profit. There are things that we have to manage with that, roof repairs, other items, interior there that take some administrative oversight. But yeah, the 33 was based upon a market value of that, and we kept it flat for a 5-year term.
So it's a break-even point?
Yes, yeah.
It's a total wash?
Yes, yeah, yeah. All right, any other questions? All right. Moving forward, the last revenue stream is state shared revenue, also known as intergovernmental revenues. They are estimated by the state of Arizona. Of the approximate 1.75 million anticipated in state shared revenue, the majority of it comes in through the state income tax line. About 41% is what we project over this next fiscal year. Now, if you look at this line, you can see that it slowly increased, and then we reached a peak in 2024, and then we're on that slow decline. The explanation there is the flat tax. So income tax is paid out at the local level 2 years in the rear. They also recalibrated the amount distributed to local communities from 15% to 18%. And the reason why they recalibrated that is it was the offset for the flat tax, and they thought that that will keep us in a neutral position. I believe as you project this thing out, it will probably be below these figures that we collected in 22 and 23. But that's the explanation of the flat tax and how it's impacting our state income tax. The other revenue streams, state sales tax, interesting that the state is projecting a kind of a neutral position with state sales tax. Once again, when I forecasted our revenue, we're looking at $1 million down. They're looking at it being flat. So once again, instituting conservative practices within our forecasting has served us well and put money in our bank. So very conservative with our forecasting on our local municipal sales tax, but they're looking at little impact in the sales tax over this next fiscal year. The final two categories are the county in lieu tax. That's the tax you pay if you buy a new vehicle, and when you register your car each year, that goes into that pot there, and then we get our proportional share based upon the population of Maricopa County and our respective population. HERF is the Highway User Revenue Fund. That's the flat tax, the 18 cents that you pay on a gallon of gas, and we get about $285,000 over this next fiscal year. So bottom line, about $1.75 million in state shared revenue. Any questions as it relates to state shared revenue?
So these are all relative population weighted.
Yes, yes. So, pretty simple. That's what we forecast in our revenue, about $8.5 million, which once again does not include the speculative grants nor our earned interest. And just as a reference point, our earned interest this past fiscal year, when everything was purring, was over $500,000. Will it be that way next year? Most likely not. But once again, that's the icing on the cake. We didn't include that number because we don't know where that number is going to go this next fiscal year. So those are things that would add to our potential surplus. So we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in additional slides or future slides. Any questions pertaining to revenue? All right. So at our first budget workshop, you heard from the majority of staff, which is also sitting behind me today, our 16 employees. They outlined their roles and responsibilities, accomplishments this past year, goals for this next fiscal year. In the fall, the council created a new strategic plan, a roadmap, if you will, of the future and key tasks that the staff will be tackling. That has to be reconciled with the ongoing workload of our limited staff. Once again, a lot of stuff they do on a daily basis is permitting and licenses. And anything that's added to that is additional work. And as the facilitator articulated during the strategic planning process, we have to reconcile the amount of time staff has and the costs associated with these special tasks that we're asking staff to accomplish. So that's what the budget attempts to do. And based on this strategic plan, these are the key areas of focus for this next budget year. We will continue to prioritize our public safety and the respective public safety contracts. We will continue to invest in the community's aging infrastructure. We will begin the public process to review and do a comprehensive update to its zoning standards. And we will seek opportunities to collaborate on open space grants and expand and improve the town's digital communication on all issues that pertain to the town. So let's put numbers now with these key tasks. We begin the discussion at a high level and then further break down each one of these categories. The anticipated overall expense without grants this next fiscal year is estimated to be $12.5 million. As you can see from the pie chart, the majority of these town expenses are with investments within the town's aging infrastructure and public safety. General operations and salaries and benefits for the 16 full-time employees make up equal shares, and risk management is the smallest amount. As illustrated in the pie chart on the right side of the slide, you can see the rising investment in our aging infrastructure as the cost for materials continue to escalate and the need to deal with life cycles of aging streets and drainage culverts. Our public safety investments continue to rise, most notably with the continual escalation of the contract with Rural Metro and the replacement of emergency equipment that has reached its useful life cycle. Operations has spiked in expenses due to repairs of mechanical equipment and life cycle replacement of some of the equipment, most notably the dump truck, which you saw out in the yard at the Public Works facility. The smallest increases are related to salary and benefits and risk management. So the next series of slides will further break down these respective categories. The general fund serves as the annual operation account for every municipality. It's what funds the daily operations of every community. As explained earlier, we anticipate a minimum of $8.5 million flowing into the general fund. What we're forecasting this year, rounding up, is $7.8 million. We're in the black by a minimum. And I say minimum because, once again, we have that buffer within our sales tax of over $1 million. I don't include any of the interest. So our minimum could be 2 or 3 times this number, but I'm projecting, conservative-wise, a $700,000 surplus within our general fund. So the bottom line is we continue to operate in the black. The largest expense within our general fund is associated with public safety. General operations, salary and benefits are equal amounts. And then the smallest amount is obviously associated with risk management. So focusing now on each one of these categories, the largest portion of the general fund, once again, public safety. Approximately $2.9 million is devoted to public safety. There are 2 divisions within public safety, fire and emergency medical services and law enforcement. We're looking at a total of $2.25 in fire emergency medical services and about $650,000 in law enforcement services. Let's start off with law enforcement services. Our contract with MCSO is $635,000. Once again, as I explained last week, there's about a $60,000 dip. That's not because labor is getting less expensive. It's because MCSO and the county renegotiated their public safety pension liability. And so in doing so, they amortized the principal and interest over a 25 to 30-year period, thus saving us at a local level approximately $60,000. In the future, the mayor and I had a discussion directly with the sheriff. There will be increases to this contract. And those increases are due to increases in the salary and benefits to the law enforcement personnel. So he did warn us that there will be future increases. Don't expect a decrease every year. This is an anomaly.
In fact, I would just add, the takeaway for me was not only will there be like inflationary increases, but Sheriff Sheridan's goal is to fill the vacancy, or not all of them, but fill vacancies that they have on their staff, whether it's in prison guards or patrolmen, and to retain better. So to do that, they have to boost the wages. Otherwise, they have a hard time recruiting, and they have a hard time retaining good people.
And the other issue is that I was very concerned about their unfunded pension liabilities because I believe they were less than 50% funded, which is very dangerous. Not that I'm a huge fan of pension obligation bonds, but this did solve a problem where they were at levels that were just not healthy for the system.
So, moving on, jail services, those are the incarceration fees from the bad actors that come through town and are found to be guilty. This is all reimbursable, but this is a placeholder within our budget, typically $15,000. Sometimes we're spot on, sometimes we're a little bit less. You can see when compared to last year, we're about 60% of that figure. But the year before, we were almost up to that $15,000. Animal control, another placeholder, a contract for services we have with Maricopa County Animal Control of $2,500, and that's kind of par for the course as far as that fee. So that's the total of the $650,000 under law enforcement. Under fire emergency services, the largest cost is obviously our contract with Rural Metro. Once again, that contract is mainly for labor services and dispatch services. So 1.951 for this next fiscal year, so 1.95 million. This is a significant cost for the town. Once again, by assuming this liability, we put money into people's pocket, and the money comes from our dedicated fire fund as well as our general fund. Equipment and building maintenance. We have a 20-year-old fire station that's used every day by 2 engine companies now. And obviously, I won't say that they abuse it, but they are young men, and it goes through a lot of exercising. So there are things that need to be replaced, some refrigerators that need to be replaced. There's cabinets that need to be fixed or replaced. There's blinds that need to be fixed or replaced. So just a little flavor of what we're focused on doing over at the firehouse over this next fiscal year. Vehicle maintenance and fuel, $25,000. This is not so much the maintenance schedule for our new fire truck or our brush truck, because they are new. We still have to do fire or oil changes. We might need new tires. But the majority of this is the fuel for the respective equipment. And then emergency equipment, once again, we're looking to upgrade our more antiquated portable radios to the latest digital system. Not a cheap expense, about $100,000. We're looking to get a grant for that. But we also have some new CPR equipment, Stryker equipment associated with that line item. So upgrading some of the equipment that we have on our fire truck. So about $145,000. You add all those lines there, you're about $2.25 million. Any questions as it pertains to public safety?
So Gary, can you just explain with MCSO, it's essentially their cost of doing business anticipated for the year, which is what they charge us every year, our share.
Yes, it's our respective share based upon our level of service. And as they adjust their cost recovery model, our fees will be increasing.
And then the rural metro's 2.5% escalator.
That is correct, yes. And that 2.5% was negotiated into our last contract. That contract expires in June of 2027. So this next fiscal year, my plan is to get with the new ownership of rural Metro, sit down with them and start focusing on these respective terms. So how much would that inflationary index be in the future? What are we looking at for a new master contract? Now, our last renewal period, the contract increased by a base rate of $300,000. What it is for this next 5-year period remains to be seen, but once again, new ownership, new costs. We have a third-party contract now because of the separation between GMR, AMR, and rural Metro with dispatch. There most likely will be some fees associated with that. Don't know the internal workings of this new leadership team, but there will be some additional operational costs that will be passed on to us. So additional overhead. How much that will impact our new master contract, don't have the answers to today, but that's something that we'll have to negotiate, and the council will be part of that respective negotiation. So, moving on to operations, the next largest part of our general fund. General operation expenses cover such things as office supply, materials, and utilities to a tune of about $2.2 million over this next fiscal year. Once again, about 28% of the overall spend for the general fund. These costs are divided up between the respective 4 departments: administrative services, community development, public facilities, and municipal court. To begin at the top, these are the respective divisions under the administrative services budget: mayor and town council. That's not the salaries that you guys get. That is the pass-through fund that we received through the Arizona lottery, about $10,000. Also, as you know and are becoming more aware of, legislation always changes. And the league is an excellent resource, and we are members of the league. This covers some of the training sessions associated with the league and then the annual meeting that they have in August. Management, this is what keeps the lights on in the community. Literally, this includes utilities within the town center, the building that we're in, our town offices. It includes subscription services and fees associated with outside governmental entities, so the county permits for dust control, our MS4 requirement through the state. There's a whole slew of fees that we have to pay these other state and county agencies that are part of this line item. Under clerk, the financial upgrades to our financial system, our audit, elections, and legal advertisements are all paid out of this respective line. Under communications, various activities that are sponsored by the town. For example, this past weekend, great event produced through Madison's assistance. The Earth Day event, there's fees associated with that, and it comes out of that line. There's Veterans Day, Memorial Day, some of the holiday events that we have. That all comes out of that line. There's a digital marketing plan and some of the things that she's trying to accomplish with that. There's fees with our website and our app that we have. All tools that we're using to communicate with our residents and those looking to relocate or open a business within Carefree. So that's what that line speaks of. So about $630,000 in operational cost in administrative services. Under community development, those are the respective divisions, beginning with planning and zoning. One of the strategic plan deliverables is to begin the process of updating our zoning ordinance, and we spoke of the use of a consultant. The use of a consultant is critical. They bring the best practices to the town. They know what's going on throughout the state. They know what doesn't work and what does work. If you want to upgrade your ordinance and do it right, you typically hire a consultant to do things. When we did our general plan process, we hired a consultant. I think most folks are pretty pleased with the general plan, the product that we received. We're looking at a similar product for the zoning ordinance and getting people involved in that process. That takes a lot of time, a lot of resources. Obviously, looking at that seesaw, time versus value. We only have so many hours in the day, so using a consultant to help facilitate that. We're projecting about $150,000 for that consultant. There are additional fees in there. One of the things that Sam articulated to you last week is we're looking at improvements over at the cemetery. I know she was dying to tell you that. But we're looking at some improvements, so that's baked into that number as well too. Under building safety, $291,000, the largest expense center within community development. Majority of that is our contract with Brown and Associates. And one of the things I articulated last week is we continue to look for a qualified person to fill that position. That will help to reduce that respective line. It is not cheap. You contract out for some of the stuff. There's an expense with it. So we are looking to get somebody in-house to serve as our building official. But Brown Associates, we have a long-lasting relationship with us. This is not to discredit them, not to discredit Mr. Gunn. Does an excellent job. But on the business side, is there a way to do it more efficiently? So that's what we're trying to reconcile. And if we get somebody that's qualified, hopefully you'll hear about that person in the near future. Economic development, the majority of those funds are the facade program. Steve will be bringing that facade program to the town council and discussing the elements of that program there. But that's what's called a P3, public-private partnership, trying to partner with our landlords within the town center and have them reinvest within their buildings and address some of the economic obsolescence that's occurring. Code enforcement, the main contributor to that line is our software that runs our short-term rental portal, and it's our way of investigating before we get the complaints about any illegal type of short-term rentals here. And we're doing a better job because of this software and managing that, and I don't think you hear as many complaints with that. And that's a combination of this software and obviously the regulations that we have implemented. Moving on to public facilities under engineering, there's some MS4 inspections. We are required to do wet inspections, and so we have monitors out in a number of washes in which we have to then feed the results of this to ADEQ. And so we have a annual report that we share with ADEQ that a lot of the stuff is documented in. So there's costs associated with that. When we prepare any bid documents, everything that we do from an infrastructure perspective, from the signage to street projects to the pedestrian crosswalk, we go through a bid process. We prepare bid documents. Sometimes with those bid documents, there's additional survey work that needs to be done, and this line captures some of that additional work. Public Works, from a comparative perspective, is one of the larger expenses, and that makes sense. A lot of supplies and materials are purchased and put out into the community, but you notice a spike there when compared to past years. That spike is mainly attributed to the purchase of that dump truck, the replacement of that dump truck. And that dump truck is critical when shoulder work is performed and cleanup is performed during our monsoon storms. So getting that in stock as quickly as possible is important. You look at the fire truck, $1 million. You look at the brush truck, $215,000. These assets are not cheap, but they're an investment in the community and give us the tools that we need to do our jobs. The final division is our municipal court. The last couple months, you've heard from our excellent municipal judge, Judge Paris Condola. That line item covers her contract, covers the public defender contract that you also reviewed and approved covers interpreter contracts. So there's a series of contracts that is covered by that, and then just general office supplies. So in a nutshell, that is the operation budget, about 2.2 or 28% of the $7.8 million in the general fund. Any questions as it relates to general operations? All right. So let's move on to the next item, HR, human resources. One of the most important assets of any professional organization are the people who every day work to represent the goals and values of the organization. Each team member has assigned roles and responsibilities. Based upon these roles and responsibilities, professional credentials, and depth of experience, each staff member has a defined monetary value. That value is based upon the local market for similar positions. To evaluate the market of each of the town's positions, last year the town conducted a comprehensive employee compensation study. In doing so, the town hired a seasoned expert in compensation studies in the public sector. The town also used 2 residents, CFO of a tech firm that also did a number of professional studies, compensation studies, and a dean of a business school. 2 individuals that performed this in their professional life. So they oversaw this respective study. And the study results were clear. They stated that the market for each position and what the town was paying for each position. The study clearly showed how each position within the market was at market or below market. Further, the report recognized the town's unique model of limiting staffing with diverse roles and responsibilities. I have to say, we were Doge before Doge even became a phrase. I mean, we are nimble. And I don't know how many times I have to say this, or others have to say this, but we are a nimble organization, and we get a lot for the investment in town staff. Over the past year, there were retirements and people who separated to go on to other jobs from the organization. We had town court positions open up. We had town clerk position open up. We had town engineer position open up, and we had code enforcement open up. And hopefully you're finding that the people filling these voids are the people that will complement this community. And I think we found some great talent, and you'll continue to hear from these folks and see the value that they bring to the table. But you got to pay them. They have a value. Over this next fiscal year, there's 5.5% increase in the health insurance. We are a member of RAGIT. It's called the Rural Arizona Health Trust. Another metric. This is Rural Arizona Health Trust. We are the smallest entity within that trust. Another metric to compare us by. If we went out to the free market and we used to do this, you would find that the rate would probably be 3 times this. So the rate for our increases in health insurance, about 5.5%. We're looking at a COLA merit increase based upon the Bureau of Labor Statistics Employment Cost Index for municipal workers for 2026 of 4.5%. You compare us to a lot of the other communities around us, they are looking anywhere between a COLA of at least 3%. On top of that, merit increases between 1 and 6%. So we're on the low side when it compares to other jurisdictions. Once again, that compensation study that I referred to, the presentation, the comprehensive presentation that individual made are available online. You could click our budget tab and watch that video. You have questions about his professional credentials, listen to what he says. He's very articulate. The guy knows his stuff. And we had excellent resource in the citizens that we use. So I ask anybody who questions it to listen to that and review that. The compensation study will be attached to the program-based budget. So it will be part of the appendix of the budget, so everybody can see the overall information generated in that report. As discussed earlier, the cost recovery model is designed to reimburse staff time for processing items such as permits, licenses, which involve a lion's share of staff's daily work. As illustrated in this slide, approximately 2/3 of staff's total compensation is offset by these fees directly correlated to the daily services that they provide. So let me pause here. Is there any questions as it relates to compensation? All right. Moving on to risk management, the final category of our general plan. You can see it's a nominal expense here, $440,000, relatively divided up into two divisions, legal services and insurance. Under legal services, there are three categories. General legal, which is our municipal law attorney, so a generalist. On occasion, we need a specialist, depending upon issues that pop up during the fiscal year. We typically have budgeted $60,000. That has not moved, and occasionally we tap into that resource as needed. And the final element is the prosecutor. The prosecutor cannot fall under the municipal court budget, so it's not one that contract services under the municipal court budget. It's under legal services. So we look at about $115,000 for that town prosecutor. So a total of about $300,000 in legal fees. Under insurance services, we contract out with Southwest Risk, a municipal pool similar to Raggett. There's 71 communities, mostly smaller communities within the state of Arizona. There's 91 incorporated communities within the state of Arizona. So the majority of communities contract with Southwest Risk. And local communities obviously have unique needs from an insurance perspective. So Southwest Risk provides a unique portfolio of insurance requirements at a discounted rate. So we pool our resources, we have buying power, and we get the best price. There is a 10% increase forecasted over this next fiscal year, but if you ever went out into the free market, we all see what's happening with our own insurance. It would be a significant increase, so a pretty good deal. We have a claim loss ratio. If there's any realized losses of $10,000, that's one of those placeholders also within our budget. So $140,000. So that makes up the $440,000 under risk management, the final category under our general fund. Any questions as it relates to risk management or any of the expenses that we just went over?
Quick question, and you might have said it and I just missed it. What's the difference between general and special legal?
So general, basically dealing with everyday operational issues. So when we have a contract, so the development agreement, we work through our municipal attorney to develop that development agreement. He attends the council meetings, obviously ensuring that open meeting violations don't occur. So he reviews public records requests, things of that nature. On occasion, there's requests for special needs. So interestingly, the boulders, when we went through the decommissioning of the plant, we assumed the boulders attorney to take that decommissioning to the Arizona Corporation Commission. We paid over the course of 2 fiscal years over $100,000, as I recall, under this line item there. If we didn't budget for that, obviously we couldn't do that. That was the right thing to do. It benefited many of the folks in the boulders that were experiencing odors and dealing with the horrendous issue of having that treatment facility within the middle of that community. So that's what that line item is addressing.
Yeah, I have a question on your legal. So you've quadrupled from 2024 to 60,000 for 2026. You had 15,000, now you're at 60. Overall, legal's up 60%. Insurance is really, I mean, I applaud you. It's stayed steady, where most insurance, all of us in this room are getting hit by pretty high premiums. So it seems our biggest increases are within the legal.
So what you see as far as, great question, what you see as far as the special legal, and you speak of quadrupling, this is a line item in the budget. This is what the actuals were in 2024. This is estimated in 2025. This is what we budgeted. But if you go back to the previous budgets, we estimated or budgeted $60,000. So you know what you're comparing here is a budgeted figure versus what the actual was, what the estimated was. So that's what this states up here. Certainly legal, it's based on the need of the community and based on need of the organization, based on issues that we're confronted with. We don't make up these issues. They come as they present themselves. So you have to budget to address these. We know that we live in a litigious society, and having the appropriate budget figures there helps to prepare you to address those things in the community's best interest.
But you're also budgeting general legal as 60% up. Yet at 75,000, you're at 125,000. And it was an increase by almost 50%, 2024 to 25.
And once again, that's based on the needs at that respective time. So what, you know, the workload in 2024 versus what we're estimating 2025 to end at, and then we project off of that number in 2025. We know that we have the northeast corner and the development agreements there, and don't know if there'll be additional work from a legal perspective there. But we have to understand the body of work that is in front of us and potential issues that might arise where you need legal advice. So that's just budgeting, playing off of these figures here. So these two figures are
So the
based.
northeast corner, you're saying, would be under general legal,
Yes.
not
yes.
special legal?
That is correct, yes.
So special legal, you're saving for abnormal events?
Correct. Yes. You
I
got
would
it.
say, I'd also add, on these legal, a lot of it is reactive, things we don't even see what's coming. So it's like, it's just like, if you don't have it budgeted and it comes, you may say, wow, I don't have the money allocated to challenge this issue or to adequately investigate it. And so by having the money budgeted, if it arises, you at least have the confidence that you can pursue the prudent legal channels to try to resolve it if need be. If you don't have it budgeted, then you're like scrambling. What am I going to do? Where am I going to get this money from? Doesn't mean, so if it's budgeted, doesn't mean you spend it, but it puts you in a position that if something arises where you need to protect yourself, you can do so if you so decide.
Yeah, that's it's a good point, because a lot of people don't realize that we're required by state law to present a balanced budget from an expenses as well as revenues perspective. They have to match. But if we don't have a line item in our budget, we can't spend it. So we have to anticipate needs. And as Gary said, we had budgeted in 24, 60,000 for special legal and 25, 60,000 for special legal, but we only spent 15 and 30,000. So it's a placeholder, because if, as John mentioned, something arises, we need to be able to handle it in the best way we can. And so it's really conservative budgeting when you're anticipating these expenses, putting the line item in there and being prepared, because we need to be prepared for unknown situations. And so this is actually good budgeting practice to make sure that we're prepared.
All right. So that's our general fund. Rounding up, once again, we're looking at about $7.8 million. We have a surplus of approximately $700,000, minimum $700,000 within our general fund. So let's switch gears and talk about capital projects. This is our capital projects dashboard, if you will. On the left side are the investments, the right side are the funding sources, and in the middle is our fuel tank. Beginning with the left side, our investments, 3 areas of investments over this next fiscal year in public facilities, street maintenance, and town center. Under public facilities, we spoke about at the last meeting the damage that is being done during our monsoon season and trying to address some of that damage. So culverts repairs, shoulder repairs, things of that nature. When we went over to Public Works, you saw a pallet full of signs. Travis told you about the cost of that pallet. I think he said it was a couple $1,000s. Didn't look like a lot of signs. It adds up really quickly. We typically budget $50,000 there, and that's to replace faded signs. And fortunately, we have some whimsical street names that people love to take home with them. So we have to occasionally replace some street signs. Traffic calming program, a few years ago, the council adopted a traffic calming program. So when neighborhoods come to us and say, I want to calm the traffic in my neighborhood, town pay for it, and we want speed bumps. This forces them to speak to everybody in their neighborhood, put skin in the game, and the town has some matching funds up to $15,000. So this is that respective line item. Street maintenance, and I'll get into this in a next series of slides, but per our strategic plan and our approved CIP, we're looking at a mill and overlay in the Rolling Hills and Carefree Shadows neighborhood. And once again, I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. Town Center, we have a contract for the comprehensive signage program coming to you hopefully in May, correct? So we went through a bid process and it falls within that respective line item. They could start it this year, but most likely the cost will be part of next fiscal year's budget, so we've budgeted for that. EV phase 2, we did a EV study of chargers within the town center and throughout the town. There's a possibility of grants in the future for the construction of these, so we just programmed in that. Once again, this is a placeholder. If we don't put it in there, we don't get it, so we got to program it. Parking and sidewalk improvements, we will have a joint session with the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission on May 12th to talk about opportunities to enhance parking and deal with enhancing parking relative to our businesses within the town center and what that means and potential costs associated with that. So total within the town center, about $1.8 million. We're looking at just shy of $4.8 million in capital projects. So if you look over to the right side, how is this going to be funding? Well, there's the EV grant that we're looking at. HERF is the Highway User Revenue Fund that I illustrated earlier when we talked about revenues. This is where it's expensed out of our capital projects. It can only be used for street projects, street maintenance projects. So that's where those funds are allocated towards. UTCAP is a fee that Southwest Risk pays us, and we typically build that fund up, and we have about $150,000 in it, and we're looking to expend it and offset the expense for this next fiscal year budget. The general fund contribution is that surplus I spoke to you about. And obviously, if we realize and double or triple that surplus, what we take out of our savings account, our capital reserve fund, will go down significantly. But being conservative, we've forecasted up to $3.2 million. Does that mean I think we're going to take $3.2 million out of our capital reserves? No. This is just a forecast. We don't know what our surplus is going to be, but we know that we'll have a surplus over this next fiscal year. So this is validation on how we're performing. Our fuel tank, our capital reserves, as you can see, all-time highs, about $16 million. What an excellent reference point. We're investing in our aging infrastructure and we're building up our savings account. I mean, I don't know what to say. What are we doing wrong? So it's amazing to see that being built up. It's amazing to see the investment in our aging infrastructure. It's amazing to see this community at the stage it's in. The fiscal health and physical health of this community has never been better. So that's a little bit about the capital improvement projects, what we're forecasting this next fiscal year. Any questions associated with that? Once again, I want to touch upon the street projects. So Any question other than the street project?
Yeah, just a question is kind of in the weeds, but in that ute cap that comes from the risk pool?
No, that comes from, Southwest Gas. Did I say?
Southwest Gas.
Yeah.
No, no, I probably
Yeah,
used,
yeah, yeah.
I was off.
Yes, so Southwest Gas,
And
yes.
that's a number that's historically comes back to us more or less year in and year out.
Yes, so per their franchise agreement, it ranges anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000 annually. It's a fee that they pay us. It goes into a reserve account, and they can actually tap into that if they have a significant street repair associated with infrastructure that they put in. They typically do not, but then we can use those funds and allocate them towards our street projects, since they go in and trench, and typically that's a point of failure with any street, is trenching in within streets creates the longitudinal cracking of streets. So it's something that we use to help fuel our street projects.
So this 150,000, it's been building up for a few years?
Yes, yes.
And is it dedicated to capital
Streets,
stuff?
yep.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you.
So let's,
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Quick
sorry.
question, if you could go back.
okay.
So the EV Phase 2 grant, so we've kind of heard recently, and I know it's not 100% definite yet, that it looks like the Hampton Inn is going to actually put in EV charging stations, and they're going to be for the public. If that's the case, then this is here, but we just wouldn't use it. It would go back in,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit in more detail about the pavement preservation project in Carefree Rolling Hills and Carefree Shadows. What you see here, and let me get you oriented here because this is the subdivision map, but this is Pimo Road going northbound on the left side of this slide. This is Cave Creek Road going to the northeast, and then Stagecoach east-west. So the far eastern portion of our community. These streets are original. These streets date back, in this case, 1963. Doing the quick math, that's over 60 years old. 63, 64, 69, 75, 73, 72. Typical life of asphalt, 25 to 40 years. I think we've been doing our job over the past number of years, trying to extend the life of this asphalt. And doing that, when we try and extend the life of the asphalt, what we do is topical treatments. We apply a surface, much like lotion that you put on your skin. You try to preserve that surface. And so that surface obscures the cracking, the structural cracking that's occurring underneath to prevent the water from going down into those cracks and causing the structural damage. But what we're seeing with these streets is that the cancer is spreading. And that cancer is in the skin, and so we do a mill and overlay and dig into that skin to remove that cancer. That's what we'll be doing, is digging into the skin, removing the skin cancer, and putting a layer of new asphalt on top of that. So not a total rebuild, a 2-inch mill and overlay. As I discussed at the previous council meeting when we discussed the CIP, during rain events, it's interesting because you can see the distress happening right after these rain events. So we took this back in March, right after the first rain. I think we had 3 storms in March. This was after the first rain, so it magnifies the cracking. Why is that? Because the water drains down into the cracks. And as a result, it starts causing that damage. So this is what's called reflective cracking caused by thermal expansion. The heat that we have, the asphalt expands and contracts during the course of the year. So the cracks get wider in the winter and then get smaller in the summer. And when they get wider in the winter and we have these winter rains, the water filters down, goes down into the base. We get vertical movement of the asphalt, and that's when potholing starts beginning. This is reflective bleeding and block cracking observed after that storm as well too. So this is right in the center. It's where all the trucks, the wheels go. Guess what? That pavement starts lifting. So what you see on top here is that topical treatment. We're getting that reflective cracking coming out up, and it's getting worse and worse. What we're seeing is the cancer coming up to the surface now, and we're trying to address all that cancer that we know is occurring within the top 2 inches of that asphalt. This is block cracking and raveling. Once again, you can see actually little pieces, is bad photograph, but little pieces of asphalt that are being dislodged from these cracks. And this is, the potholes that are starting to form. You can see the alligatoring in the middle of the road. You can see the consistency of the cracking. Once again, our job is trying to extend that life, but we know what's occurring below the surface, and we're trying to address that. So these projects are not cheap, and in trying to extend the life, we saved money. We've done all those topical treatments, but once again, with asphalt 50 to 60 years old, it's time to do the right thing. And the residents of Carefree, I can tell you, doing this for 23 years, have an expectation about the uniformity, the appearance of their street. They don't want cracks because they trip on the cracks, they look ugly, and they're tired of some of these topical treatments. So dealing with these oldest streets and being strategic about it. We're not doing this all over the place. These are a few of the neighborhoods that we're trying to incrementally address. We have the money to do it. It's time to do it. So that's what we're trying to achieve with these respective projects. Any questions as it relates to this pavement preservation?
I think it's very important that we maintain our infrastructure, because the costs of not maintaining it mean that down the road it's substantially more expensive. I think that it was in the pavement preservation program where the consultant said for every dollar spent early in the pavement's life, it can eliminate or delay spending $6 to $10 on the same road pavement in the future. And so, coming from a state where they wanted to spend money on things other than road maintenance, where you have primary road maintenance is dealing with potholes. We don't want to get there. I mean, people have high expectations, talk to people at this post office all the time. Someone just thanked me that Velvet Shadows was going to get new street surfacing, but they have high expectations of our infrastructure and our roads. And when we redid Tom Darlington, I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, thankfully that was really fast, but also it looks great. I love driving on it. And these are important things to our people.
All right.
I have, everyone saw the Sonoran News where Cave Creek just approved 1.505 million for 19 town roads, and they're doing basically what we're doing. Why are they doing it at half the price? And their roads are fine. So saying we have to have the Rolls Royce of roads, yes, we have to. I agree with Sheila. Infrastructure is very expensive, but why are they able to do it so much less expensive than us? And also, if you read papers, University of Michigan has the authority on desert roads, a professor, writing that all the new types of surfaces that are being made, asphalt is not considered the best. But maybe we should be researching that, because I'm a little startled that they can do it for half our cost. And if you read what they're doing what you're claiming we're doing on a lot less roads.
So what exactly are they doing?
Well, read the article. It
No, I
says
mean, you just brought it up.
pulverize and pave, edge mill and overlay, edge mill and overlay, edge mill and overlay. So they list all the roads, everything they're doing per road. So I agree with you, yes, roads are part of the community, but we're also in the desert. So people's expectations are not these pristine roads. We're in the desert. They want good roads that are passable, no potholes. I agree with you on that. I'm just saying, just because we have big reserves, just because you have the money, doesn't mean you go out and buy Rolls Royce.
So this is not something that we're just kind of willy-nilly deciding to do.
I'm not saying we're
This-
doing that,
well,
Sheila,
what
at all.
this is a strategic plan to maintain the roads at the level that people expect, and to make sure that roads don't get to the point where they're so bad where you have to do the most expensive process in order to get them back to what you would consider to be normal. Now, if you're going to compare what we're doing with any other town, it would have to be an apples to apples comparison. Would be the roads have the exact same current condition, and you have the exact same miles or square yards, the way they look at it, and the exact same covering. And so until we know exactly when we put out the RFP, you can't make an apples to apples comparison until we know that.
I
So-
agree with you.
Okay, so,
And
but
I'm
you can't
comparing
say,
with Cave Creek because they're up here.
But
They're
it-
the same climate. They have a lot more traffic on their roads than we do.
but we're not
And they're the
comparing-
age or older than we
We
are.
don't-
So let's look at it.
What you
I'm
just
not-
described to me is not the exact same process that we had, that Gary just,
That is
described.
correct. Mayor, members of council, let me maybe make a few clarifying remarks. We do need to do an apples-to-apples comparison. Obviously, the lane miles of what they're doing and the treatments that what they're doing, they are different. I don't know how many lane miles. The treatments that they're looking at for a mill and overlay, the article speaks of a mill and overlay to the edges and then overlaying the top of the street on top of the what's out there today. That's a lot different. That changes drainage patterns. That has significant issues in Carefree. Cave Creek is a lot more rural. They have ranches there. Changing the drainage pattern doesn't impact many folks there. In Carefree, it could wash out somebody's front yard landscaping. We don't typically build up the street. We have to mill down the street, so we ensure we don't change the grade of the street itself. So there is a difference in application. In addition, when you look at this $2.5 million figure, this is the ceiling. Once again, as I articulated when we talked about the CIP, the idea here is, what do we know? We know how much the mill and overlay cost on Tom Darlington and sections of Cave Creek Road. We know that we got 3 bids for that respective project. Let's use, once again, this is conservative budgeting, the ceiling, the most expensive bid, because I don't know what petroleum's going to do in the future. Will it go up? Will it go down? Perhaps. But at the end of the day, we budget. Once again, this is a budget figure. This is not the actual bid that comes in. Could we get it at $1.5 million? I hope so. So the end of the day, this is a budget figure. This is for a 2-inch mill of the entire street. You saw the distress that is happening to these streets. These streets are different than the streets in Cave Creek in that this is an asphalt street. Many of the streets in Cave Creek are chip seal over native. Totally different maintenance requirement associated with that. I can appreciate, the state of Michigan and what they do in the state of Michigan.
It's not, he's writing on deserts.
I-
Saudi Arabia
I know,
and here.
but
so
I,
not on the state
for
of
23
Michigan.
years,
They have snow.
for 23 years, I have walked and managed streets in Carefree. I think I know the streets fairly well in Carefree and the distress that's happening, and also what I hear from those residents who call and complain to me on a daily basis about their state of their streets. We're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to marry the appropriate application here, and the mill and overlay is the appropriate application for this respective neighborhood. It's 60-year-old asphalt. It's time to address the distress within that asphalt.
Yeah, and if you could just clarify again, so we all know what mill and overlay is. We can go out to Tom Darlington and see it, or we can go up to Galloway Wash Road and see it. So when Cave Creek talks about edge mill and overlay, what are they gonna do?
So essentially, if this is the street, they are taking a strip on each side of the street to mill it so that they can marry the elevation of that new asphalt to the driveways that come into the street. So there's no lip on those driveways, so they're not building up the asphalt when it interfaces into those driveways, so they mill the edges. We have done that in the past too. It changes the elevation, and then we get complaints from the residents because of drainage problems along those sections of roadway. Believe me, we've explored a lot of options here with these streets. We don't shoot from the hip. And we've attended many sessions by different vendors about the latest and greatest technology associated with maintaining your streets, and we continue to do so. I get a magazine, I think it's sitting in my mailbox right now, Best Pavement Practices. I mean, it's something that we read, we get educated on, and we try to do the right thing. But you have to blend it with what the community's expectation is. That's what we're trying to do.
And I think a lot of our residents come from somewhere else, so they bring those expectations with them. So I think
But
that's
it
what we
is-
have to live up to.
Yeah, I mean, and typically, you know, what I've seen over my career is that when budgets get tight, the first thing that gets cut is road maintenance. And then you get behind, and it's really almost impossible to catch up. And so I think making sure that we stay on top of this is very important, particularly because we are in an environment that has harsh conditions and, you know, when the washes flow or the monsoons flow, you know, we don't want, say, a culvert to take out a road or anything like that. I mean, we need to stay on top of this. It's very important.
All right. So moving forward real quickly here. Next section is grants. Now, these are not given, but once again, as discussed earlier, we got to program that into the budget, because if we don't, we can't expend that. So there are several areas where we're contemplating working on some grants. Largest one being open space acquisition. Obviously, through the general plan process, there was a focus on open space. We're looking at programming $1 million. This is a placeholder. This could be something that's continuous within the budget process, but $1 million for open space acquisition. Kristen comes to us with a wealth of knowledge on grants and grant writing. She has expertise in that area, so we'll be tapping into that resource and trying to explore that with our partners on open space. We spoke of the MAG Phase 2 EV grant. We spoke about the fire equipment and the digital radios that we're trying to obtain a grant for. And then we spoke about the Arizona Lottery Fund, the funds that go to the Carrying Corps every year. So about $1.5 million in grants. You take that $1.5 million, you add another $500,000 to budget contingency. You do the math here, the $12.5 million in the overall spend of the town. That gets us to an overall expenditure limit of just north of $14.5 million. The importance of this slide is we have an expenditure limit, a statutory expenditure limit. That statutory expenditure limit is $13.2 million. It incrementally increases each year, but right now it's $13.2 million. There are exclusions to that expenditure limit from the grants to HERF and to UPCAP. You add all those exclusions together, and we are about 1.17 million, 1.18 million under the statutory expenditure limit. So the importance of this slide is to show you where we are relative to the expenditure limit. And then in May, when we look at our tentative budget and we set the bottom line, that $14.5 million is that bottom line figure. That includes the overall expense, which is the grants and the budget contingency and the overall investments within the town. So, Mayor, members of the council, that concludes the second workshop. Once again, after this workshop, if there weren't any real significant issues, the draft of the program-based budget, which marries the information shared at the first workshop with the information shared at this workshop, will be presented to you at the next workshop, but it blends that information together into the program-based narrative, so it puts the narrative that was communicated at the first workshop with the numbers that are communicated at this workshop and presents the big picture of the budget. And that's what we'll be talking about at our next workshop next week. So that being said, be glad to address any questions that the council might have.
Oh, nicely done. Thank you. Very thorough. So questions, comments from the council?
The only question I would have is, and I'm not gonna get you back into roads too much, but, you know, when you're talking about doing the road work, and then you talk about adding parking, is there a way we could combine that project so that we could potentially get a lower number for the whole thing? I think, I talked to you a little bit about that.
Certainly. I mean, obviously, there's economy of scale with those type of projects. What really drives costs for projects up here is the staging costs.
Yeah.
So driving all the way up here from the plant. So those are all costs that increase it. So yes, I mean, we can look at programming those projects together to save it, but where are those projects relative to this street maintenance project? So we'll have to talk about the timing of that and see how that all can be paired
Yeah,
together.
I would love to see,
Yeah.
I think the folks around town center would love more parking, so if we could look at that, that'd be
Yep.
great. Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. So hearing no other questions or comments, do we have any public comments?
I didn't fill one out, we've got one subject matter, so,
Oh, well, come on up and fill one up afterwards if you would.
okay. Hi. To Sheila's point, you can't spend it if you don't have a line item, right? I didn't see a line item for professional services, and I assume the consulting expenditures that you were talking about earlier would be under professional services. So where is that line item?
So today's discussion is kind of a high-level look. So you look at the respective divisional budgets in the program-based budget, and it would be within one of those line items under planning and zoning.
So will that be broken out in the future?
Yes, it has been, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I can think of, I'm sorry to interrupt, but, so when we look at the next budget, will it be broken out in that budget? I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Okay,
So
And
that's the
then-
question. So when we, it's like next week, we go through this,
Yep.
will, like, professional services for the planning and for the zoning ordinance consultant be broken out separately?
Yeah, we can certainly, I have to look at that table, but I think there's professional services in there. I don't know if there's anything else combined in there, but it's $150,000.
And that's part of the operational budget.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
but that'll include or encompass within it
Yeah.
the consulting
Yeah.
services that you anticipate.
Yes.
Okay. The other is not really a question, but I do live in Carefree Shadows. And I have for a long time. And the last time those streets were treated, it was basically what you said, the cracks were filled in, and then there was some kind of surface
fiber
put
seal.
on top of
Yep,
it.
yep.
A year later, those cracks were there, including vegetation growing through those cracks. So, you know, whatever the process is, whatever the materials is that are being used this time, I do know there are alternatives to asphalt, some of which last less time, some of which last more time. And to the question that was posed, are you going to kind of look at whether asphalt is the best surface that we can use?
Mayor, members of council, excellent question. Yes, I mean, what we've used to date, so if you look at over the series of the last 20 years, there's been a rotation of topical treatments to your
Right,
roads. So we've used a fiber seal. We used a slurry seal without fiber. We've used a cape seal. We're running out of options. We know what's underneath. Those structural cracking, it's just getting worse. We know the cancer exists. We know that we're seeing the alligatoring occurring. It's time to now mill down and address that cancer. So the asphalt that we'll be replacing will address that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You familiar with Tremonti out
Uh,
on Carefree Highway
Oh, yeah.
by I-17?
Mhm. Yes. Yep.
You know, for a long time, the streets had this white glaze over it, and I thought it was just a lousy job.
Yeah.
But it turns out that the reason why they did it that way is because it reflects the sun
Yeah.
better than regular asphalt.
Yep.
Have you looked at that at all?
You know, we haven't done that. That's an additive put in at the plant itself. I think Phoenix was using that to test it, to do an heat island study. I have no idea where that went, but that was something that they adds to the expense of the asphalt. It's something more unique. I don't know if it really addresses the cracking. You know, we have hot, dry weather, and you're still going to get that scarring of it. It's kind of suntan lotion on the skin. You're still going to get the damage that occurs from
So
the
it's a
sun.
topical
Yeah.
application?
Yep. It's actually impregnated into the asphalt itself.
Yeah,
so
looks
it's-
kind of crappy,
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
but I was curious as to whether you could
Yeah.
mix it in with this.
yeah. Yes, yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, so we have no other public comments. Please fill out a slip for our records. And any other questions from the council? So we're hearing none. Oh,
Wait,
do you have a
Yeah, I
question?
have
Go
a
ahead.
question. So when we get for next week, you're going to do like a line item budget. So we'll have a line, what John was saying about profession. I didn't see for the strategic, the two guys that were here working with us, that was 30,000. So are you going to break all that out? The consultant that did the analysis of the payroll?
Yeah,
No, we want to see, and also, I'd love to see a budget that's not 83 pages long with pictures and a lot of verbiage. Like most towns, just revenues, expenses, and then break down the expenses by department, salaries per employee, and benefits per department, and a little more, like every other town does.
Mayor, every other town provides a program-based budget. This is the program-based budget that we provide. The GFO, the governmental financial officials, they have a meeting every year in which they review all our budgets. They all are the same. So this is typical of a program-based budget. It has the narrative, it has the tables, it has the graphics, it has an explanation of how the town funds are spent, where the revenue comes from.
But that's not what I'm at, just when you go to their budget page, they usually have revenues, their charts,
So,
expenses, so
yeah,
they show.
I don't know what you're looking at. It could be Schedule A through G, which is the Auditor General forms, which is a consolidation of a number of cells, and it doesn't tell you what you're looking for. But we have to do the Schedule A through G because we have to file that with the Auditor General. So you will see Schedule A through G with our budget. You will also see the tables that have been prepared. They in some cases do combine line items. They are not a operational budget. It's not a document that has every nook and cranny. So I don't know what communities you are looking at, but
I will
I've
email
listened.
them to you.
Yeah, I've listened to some of the newscasts this past week on other communities. Scottsdale's 2.2 billion. If they had to go a line item for each and everything, I mean, there'd be thousands of pages, not 100 pages.
But isn't
Yeah.
two things. One, in a category, because I agree, you can't kind of list everything, right? But, and I know in the past, I've come to you and said, oh, okay, so what's made up in here? And you tell me, right? So
Yep.
we can come to you and get that information. And then you do, when the check registers that come out at our meetings, we're going to see every dollar where it's spent. So not like we're going to go and take these and move them over there, but the detail's there if people want it.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
And we will be, before a consultant is hired, this will be brought to us to approve the contract.
Absolutely, yes.
Those tables, they're really difficult to understand and read, at least the ones that are published per the
The
state code.
Auditor Generals, yes. Yep. Yep.
And I think a narrative, I mean, for those that have been around a while, we may look at the budget as being have pictures and so forth in it, but for a resident to read it, it's really an education. So it helps them understand.
Well, it is an in-depth explanation of our budget. And if you really want to understand it, then you're just gonna have to take some time to read it. It's very well written, and it does a great job explaining in depth what we do, how we raise revenue and how we spend it.
Yeah, so, well, the number of pages may be intimidating, the content is not.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Agree.
Okay, other comments and questions?
I just,
Go right ahead. Thank you.
a great job, and I'm not really a numbers and budget person, and I really appreciate the way you lay it out, because even I understand this. Thank you.
Okay, that's saying a lot. Okay, so hearing nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.